Hello everyone, welcome back. In this video, we'll discuss about Judicial Acts under Section 77 and 78 of IPC. Section 77 deals with act of judge when acting judicially. It reads that nothing is an offense which is done by a judge when acting judicially in the exercise of any power which is or which in good faith he believes to be given to him by law. And Section 78 deals with act done pursuant to the judgment or order of court. It reads that nothing which is done in pursuance of or which is warranted by the judgment or order of a court of justice, if done whilst such judgment or order remains in force, is an offence, notwithstanding the court may have had no jurisdiction to pass such judgment or order, provided the person doing the act in good faith believes that the court had such jurisdiction. Object of these sections. The object of protection given under these provisions to judges and their ministerial staff who are executing the orders of the judges is to ensure the independence of the judges and to enable them to discharge their duties without any fear of the consequences. Protection to judges or judicial officers is based on the premise that they should be able to act fearlessly, impartially, and with full sense of security in their decision making process. The protection is based on public policy. It is in the public interest that no action can lie against a judge for his judicial act. Next, the following are the essential ingredients of these two provisions. First, Section 77 protects acts done by a judge. Section 19 IPC defines the word judge. As per this section, the word judge denotes not only a person who is officially designated as a judge, but also a person who is empowered by law to give a definite judgment in any civil or criminal proceedings. The next important element of Section 77 is that it should not only be an act of a judge, but it should also be done by him in the course of discharging his judicial powers. A judge is protected only for acts done by him when acting judicially. Proceedings initiated before magistrate under Chapter 8 of the CRPC are of judicial character, and the magistrate therefore is protected even if he in good faith acted without jurisdiction or with malice. So judicial acts are not confined to acts done in the open court but also include orders passed in chambers. We'll see some case laws related to these ingredients. First, let us discuss about two case laws in which the facts I am going to state are similar. In Rachapudi Subbarao vs. Advocate General Andhra Pradesh, AIR 1981 SC 755. Here the petitioner filed a suit for declaration of a title in respect of a building. The additional subordinate judge dismissed his suit. The petitioner issued a legal notice in which inter alia he alleged that the judgment of a judge in the suit was delivered with bad faith. He further stated that the judge, while acting judicially, did not act in good faith and he exercised his power maliciously. Contempt proceedings were initiated against the petitioner by the Andhra Pradesh High Court in another case, Mudata Chayanna vs. G. Veerabhadra Rao, AIR 1979, Andhra Pradesh 253. And in this case, the petitioner was convicted for committing gross contempt of court and was sentenced to undergo 1 month's imprisonment. The petitioner filed an appeal before the Supreme Court. Before the Supreme Court, he reiterated that the judge had rendered a dishonest judgment and was guilty of serious misbehavior in the performance of his duties, and the allegations of bad faith and malice made in the notice were true. He further contended that the notice issued by him to the judge was in compliance with Section 80 of the Code of Civil Procedure 1908, as he intended to file a suit for damages against the judge. In view of this, he maintained that the notice sent by him was not scandalous so as to constitute contempt of court. The Supreme Court, rejecting his contention, held that Section 1 of the Judicial Officers Protection Act 1850 offers an absolute immunity from civil liability for acts done by a judge in his judicial capacity and which are within his jurisdiction. The Supreme Court also held that the question of good faith arises only in cases where the acts may not be within his jurisdiction, but it was done by the judicial officer where he, in good faith, believed that he had jurisdiction. In respect of acts done which are within his jurisdiction, no enquiry will be entertained as to whether the act done or ordered to be done was erroneous or even illegal, or was done or ordered without believing in good faith. In this instant case, since there was no dispute that the judicial officer concerned has jurisdiction, he would be protected from civil liability. The appeal was dismissed and conviction and sentence maintained. Next ingredient is excess of power believed in good faith to be given by law. The protection under Section 77 extends not only to acts of a judge in excess of judicial power given to him by law, but also to acts done by him in excess of judicial power which he believes in good faith was given to him by law. So, even if a judge acts beyond his jurisdiction, provided it is under the bona fide belief that he has the jurisdiction, then even such acts are protected by this section. However, if the action of a judicial officer is actuated by malafide or improper motive, then it exhibits a lack of good faith and hence he cannot get the protection of Section 77. In Kamla Patel vs. Bhagwan Das AIR 1934, Nagaland 123, the burden of proving that the judge acted in good faith lies only upon the judge. In the case State of Uttar Pradesh vs. Tulsi Ram AIR 1971, Allahabad 162. Here the magistrate ordered a wrongful imprisonment, so he was held liable and was offered no protection. Section 78 deals with act done pursuant to judgment or order of court. Section 78, as mentioned earlier, protects ministerial or other staff who may be required to execute orders of the court. If such immunity was not extended, then executing or implementing court orders would become impossible. The protection extends even if the court order pursuant to which the person may act was actually without or in excess of jurisdiction, provided that the person who was executing the order believed in good faith that the court concerned had such jurisdiction. However, protection of Section 78 cannot be extended to the execution of oral orders of a judge. It also does not protect a person if he exceeds the power given to him by a court. Apart from the protection given by these sections, the Supreme Court in Delhi Judicial Service Association, Tis Hazari Court with the State of Gujarat, AIR 1991 SC page 2176, has issued certain directions in respect of arrest of judicial officers in the event of their being involved in a criminal case. In this case, the Chief Judicial Magistrate CJM Nadyad in Gujarat had antagonized the local police. A false charge of having consumed liquor in breach of the prohibition law enforced in the state of Gujarat was foisted on him. A police inspector arrested, assaulted and handcuffed the CJM, tied him with a thick rope like an animal and made a public exhibition of him by sending him in the same condition to the hospital for medical examination. Photographs of the CJM in handcuffs with a rope tied around his body along with the constables were published in newspapers all over the country. The Supreme Court initiated contempt proceedings against all the concerned police officials and also punished them for the same. Apart from that, the court also issued directions that if a judicial officer is to be arrested for any offense, it should be done under intimation to the district judge or the high court. If such circumstances necessitate immediate arrest, a formal or technical arrest may be effected and the same be informed to a district judge and the chief judge of the high court. On arrest, the judicial officer shall not be taken to the police station without prior order of the district judge. The Supreme Court also directed that in all instances when a judicial officer is arrested, handcuffs should not be used. So this is all about Judicial Acts under section 77 and 78. In my next video, we'll see about accident and misfortune under sections 80 and 81 of IPC. Thank you all for watching this video. If you liked this video, please do like, comment, share and subscribe. Thank you.